But every time I'd ask him, he would go in a rage and he would start hitting me. And so I thought, you know what, if I keep asking this, that's what it means. I'm gonna get hit. So I stopped asking. My name is Janelle Moreau. I actually moved to the US in 2013. I originally came here just to go to school, and I met my husband through my sister. Her husband and him were in the Army together. So it was kind of like a fresh start. That changed actually like the first week I was here. He was really verbally abusive at the very beginning, and I didn't quite understand it. Like I had never really experienced anything like that before, and so I thought it was something I could fix. It's something I could change, but it never did. So the first week it started up, and then a couple weeks later we got into an argument, and he hit me across the face, and he knocked out my tooth. And afterwards, it was kind of the same, just more verbal abuse, no more physical, but just verbal. And we were staying at his mother's house. On my birthday, actually, May 5th, I found out I was pregnant with our daughter, and things were fine for a while. His mother acted really strange towards me after that. Like she didn't want to be around me. She was rude. She was really rude. Scarlett was born, and things between me and her got worse, a lot worse. I wanted to move out. I wanted our own space. I wanted our own privacy, and she kept saying that she wanted more money and more money, more money. And my mother passed away 19 years ago. She told me to go F my dead mother, and threw a cup of water in my face. She called my father, who was alive then, an alcoholic, and I said, he doesn't hide it. I said, at least I know who my dad is. And she tried to force Scott to kick me and the baby out, and he refused to do so. So we moved out a few days later. The next couple of years were fine. Like, we didn't have any contact with her, and like we didn't argue. He wasn't verbally abusive anymore. Like everything was fine. December 2017, he decided to try and repair things with his mother, and things started going downhill again. He started being verbally abusive, and then he was gone all the time. So I was at home pretty much all the time by myself, and I was also doing my college work and raising the kids. Like I had another child at the same time. Scott was born January 7th, 2015, and Kane was born December 31st, 2015.
Oh, wow.
So they're really, really...
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was super busy, and I didn't really mind that you didn't take me anywhere, because taking both kids places, it was a handful. He started like really ignoring me, and I blamed myself. I thought maybe because I didn't lose the baby weight, that he didn't want to be around me. So I started exercising like crazy, and it still didn't change. Nothing changed. He was never at home, and he wouldn't interact with me. He wouldn't interact with the children, and I would try and talk to him, and he would just ignore me. And then around 2019, that's when things started going a lot downhill. Like he would start degrading me physically and sexually, and say he would write letters, and he was incredibly mean about it. And so in March 2019, what had happened was a couple of friends had come over, and they had to stop him from hitting me. And he had gone on my Facebook, and he would add men to my Facebook and then get mad at me for it, saying, "Oh, you're doing this, and I'm trying to make sense of all this, and I didn't understand what was going on." One night he hit me in the head. He threw a can of powdered milk at my head and split it open. And so I called his stepmother, and she came and got me and the kids and took us to a shelter. Oh, just before then though, he brought a woman home from the bar, and she had grabbed me, and I pulled my arm away, and I did have a gun, and I went outside and I emptied the entire clip, and I told her to get out of my house, to take him with her. They left. About an hour later, there was a knock at the door, and it was the police. And I thought, I didn't know why they were there. I was like, hi, come in, what's wrong? Like, something wrong? And I had no idea that they were there to arrest me. And I was kind of like, are you kidding me? Really, me? Like, what did I do? And they had collaborated their stories to say that I had pointed the gun at his head when I didn't. There's actually text messages where he admits that that's what he did. And that Monday he went to work, and I was in the kids' room, and I heard yelling. I heard his voice arguing, and I was looking around like, where's this voice coming from? His truck wasn't there. And so I went outside and was kind of looking around to see, because we lived out in the country and there was nothing, there was nobody there. Mm-hmm. So I went back into the bedroom and I could hear it again, except it was coming from the vent. So I listened really closely, and it clearly was his voice. And then it stopped. About 5 minutes later, he came in, he peeled into the driveway, and he was mad, like really, really mad. And he handed me his phone, and he told me to erase all of it, that he wasn't going to give up his family for anything. I was like, what is going on? So I went to go erase it, and he was like, wait, I need the contacts off of it. And that is the moment that everything changed. He was never the same after that. After that, every time I would go out, try to do my schoolwork, or I would try to use my phone, it would just ring and ring and ring. No one would answer. None of my friends, my sister, nobody. I was trying to figure out what was going on with credit cards, and no answer. And at the same time, I was trying to figure out what was going on. But every time I'd ask him, he would go in a rage and he would start hitting me. And so I thought, you know what? If I keep asking this, that's what it means. I'm gonna get hit. Mm-hmm. So I stopped asking. And then that's when I was standing in the kitchen this one morning, and I had his phone. I was wondering, like, I was gonna open it to see if I could find if he was cheating or something, and it was locked, completely locked. So I'm standing in the kitchen, I'm making coffee, and I was just talking to myself because I felt really alone, and no one would answer my calls, and it was just, I didn't know what to do. So I was just kind of talking to God, mm-hmm. to my life. In the air, and the phone turned on by itself. It was open, and I was like, "That's weird." And I'm like, "Oh, we have to start digging." So I'm looking around, and then all of a sudden, this webpage popped up, and words were highlighted in bold on the webpage, and I was like, "Weird," but if you read it from like left to right, up to down, it was like a message. And it was saying that Scott had uploaded a video and had made money off of it. And then it was kind of pieces of the webpage would be highlighted. And I took that as to press it. So I pressed it. And it took me to LegalZoom, and then wanted me to copy and paste. But I wasn't very like super tech savvy at that point, and I kept getting it wrong. So whenever I got it wrong, it would take me to a tutorial on how to do whatever it was asking, guiding me to do. And so I was doing everything, and then it took me to probably a dozen video websites, and had me send all that, whatever copy and paste, to those websites to take it down. And I was like, well, what is a video? And then it took me to a Chime, I think it was a Chime bank account. And then he woke up and the screen went off. Just blank. And he went back to bed. And at the time, like, I don't know why I thought this, but I thought, oh, wow, how cool is that? This phone, it's like it's talking to me. and then it turned back on. Not even thinking that, you know what, this is wrong. There's something completely wrong here. That should have been my first thought, but at that time it really wasn't. It tried to help me get back into my Facebook because I was still locked out. And once I was back on, I seen a bunch of my clothes were all sold. And that was the last time I ever got on that Facebook. And I asked him about it, and I got physically assaulted again. So every day was pretty much the same. Like all of a sudden a map would pop up, and he'd accuse me of being an escort, and he would physically assault me. And it would happen at the drop of a hat. When he wasn't home, it was the most calmest time. Like me and the kids, it was just all three of us. And whenever he came home, like the kids used to run to the door whenever he was home, but now we all hid. And we tried to stay as quiet as possible. But it didn't matter. It really didn't. And I just felt like I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know who could help. Because nobody wanted to talk to me anymore. Like he had told everybody I was an escort. His boss called me and told me what he was saying about me. And he's like, you deserve a lot better. He's like, we all know that you're not. He's like, we all know that he's putting you through hell right now. He's like, we've got to stay out of it. And I thought, I'm really alone. I'm really alone in all this. And the same things kept on happening over and over again. And he was sitting on the bed one day and he said, I really hate it when you take your SIM card out. And I was like, what? Why? I said, I can't find you. I was like, what do you mean he can't find me? And he wouldn't say anything after that. I thought that was just really, really, really strange. I didn't think that it was him that was doing it at the time. Like I really thought that it was someone else that was doing it, that was responsible for everything. And so when I ordered his credit report, I couldn't get it because his name and his social didn't match up. I thought that was really strange. And I asked him, I'm like, well, how come your name and your social aren't matching up? And he's like, oh, you must have said it wrong. And I'm like, no, I didn't say it wrong. And I'm like, here, you call with the hotel phone. And so I dialed the number for him, and he's like, no one's answering. He's like, I'm busy, I have to go. So then he'd leave again. So in September, same thing every single day. And then in October, I've had enough. I couldn't take it anymore. I was walking on eggshells all the time. I was always hiding black eyes. The kids were terrified, and I didn't want them growing up feeling like they weren't good enough or experiencing all that abuse and all the effects from abuse. And that they were terrified of him. I was afraid to go to sleep around him. And so I decided I was going to leave. No matter what, I was going to leave. And I contacted a friend in Canada, and he contacted some of my family, so they knew I was coming. He grabbed me, and I kind of got away from him, and then came out from behind me, and he started dragging me across the pavement. And I ran around to the other side, and he picked me up from behind and was trying to drag me back into the storage room, and I was using my feet to stop him, because I thought if he gets me in there, he's gonna end up killing me. And so I was using my legs to push myself away from that door, and using my elbow to try and hit him underneath the armpit. And I got away, and it took about maybe 4 or 5 steps, and I heard my son crying. So I turned back around, and he grabbed me by my throat, and he told me he'd make it fast, and to tell me to say goodbye to my children. So he had me from behind, and I was trying to get away. And they were screaming. I could hear my children screaming. And then he was just satisfied to just keep on punching me in the face. And that went on for a while, and finally he let me go. He said I could fall asleep in the back of the vehicle. So the police actually knocked on the window in the middle of the night, and he warned me not to say anything. So I didn't say anything. I didn't show my face. So around 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, he woke me up, and it started all over again, punching me in the face. And then we were going to Greenville. I had called my lawyer and told him everything that was happening. And he said to come to his office and he would help. He gave me $500 and he told me to leave. And I said, I will. Promise I will. And so the police were called and DSS was called. And DSS told me to find someone to take the kids. And I didn't know anybody. I had one friend and she wasn't talking to me anymore, but I didn't even have her number. And so I called his mother and she yelled at me on the phone and said she wasn't taking the kids for the night because DSS was only going to take them for the evening. And they ended up, because I couldn't find anybody, they ended up taking them and keeping them. And I said, well, I'm trying to leave. It's not like I'm staying in this situation. I'm trying to leave. And it didn't matter. They didn't care. They took my children that night. And Scott went to jail. So I was left in that hotel room with nothing. I had no money. He had taken all the money that the lawyer gave me. I didn't have a vehicle. I didn't have anything. And I was standing there and I was crying. I didn't know what to do. And all of a sudden, I heard a phone ring. And I was like, oh my God, he left his phone. And I answered it, and it was one of his friends. And his friend came and got me. I spent the night there, and then his girlfriend didn't want me there anymore, so okay. And someone I'm really good friends with now, he actually took me in. And so I stayed with him for the month of November, and then December I was like, you know what, I have to stop crying. I have to pull myself together. I have to do something. I have to get my children. Scott's car was with his mother, and he said I could have the keys. And I decided to go to Canada. And I was going to get help from my family, and since I'm Native American, to see if they could use the Indian Child Welfare Act to get my kids to Canada. He had this locked trunk, and he always kept it locked. He had three combination locks with 3 digits, and something had happened to the vehicle. It was overheating all the time. When it was mine. It acted perfectly fine before he was in jail, but after that, it wasn't working right. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of curious. I was curious, super curious. I'm like, what is in that locked trunk? I want to see. But it's locked for a reason. He won't let me in. So you know what? There's something hiding inside there. So whenever he was working in the car or if he was sleeping, I would start with 001, just working my way up, trying to get in. And that's how I found there was 3 different locks, because when I got in, next time I went in, there was nothing. I couldn't get in. So finally figured out all 3 combination locks, and inside I found about 30 phones. Few were working, but most of them weren't. Found SD cards in little square cases, and there's about maybe 10 SD cards. There was USB flash drives. There was about 11 or 12 laptops. And I thought, what is going on here? And looked at him like, but still I didn't want him to know. So I took a phone and turned it on, put an SD card in there. And that's when I seen all the weird files. And it was passcodes, it was email addresses, it was phone numbers. And I thought, what is going on here? And then I seen the money transfers, like not just for $100 or $200. It was one was $58,000. another one for 5,000, another one for 2,450, another one for 2,000. Like so many money transfers to Albania, and then using Western Union, using Walmart, using Venmo, Chime, Zelle, like so many. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. And then in some of them, there was just screenshots of what looked like a video, but I couldn't make it out. Like it looked really odd. I was like, what are these videos? These are the ones that he was accusing me of. And I said, well, and then I found the pictures from all my lost emails of the kids. And I was like, well, why does he have them? I can't get in those accounts, so why does he have all these? And then I seen the transfer from the school, from Liberty to his email. But he had about 15 emails. And then inside that black trunk, there was also a briefcase. And inside that briefcase, there was like handwritten books like this, like that.
Mm-hmm.
Filled with passwords, filled with codes, and there was cryptocurrency and email addresses and clouds and like IP last passes and like just so many. Like there was like three of these books filled with all that kind of stuff. And I thought, what is going on? So I was like, you know what? I need to leave here. I need to get out of here before something really bad happens to me. And so when he was working on the vehicle, I had my laptop and I decided, you know what? I'm gonna take all his files. I'm gonna prove that he stole my identity. I'm gonna prove I didn't do it. Because I'm gonna end up going to jail for this. And I'm not gonna go to jail for something I did not do. So when he was like outside in the truck, I would take either screenshots with my phone, or I would plug it in and then download everything onto my computer. And I was at that time I was also saving money. If you open up a deodorant and twist it all the way up, you could pull it right off. Mm-hmm. And I started hiding money in there, and then push the deodorant back on, because he would always go through my things looking for supposed cheating. Nowhere to hide the money, and that was the only place that was safe. So by the time I got all the files, well, not all of them, but most of them, and I saved up $600. And I was sitting, and we got in an argument the night before, and he kicked me in the back of the head. And he held a torchlighter to my eye and burnt off all my eyelashes. And it was the next morning, and I was sitting there, and I thought, I can't do this anymore. No matter how much I wanted him to love me, or how much I tried to be what he wanted, it was never going to happen. And I could hear him yelling at me from the door. And I looked at him, and I just started the car, and I just drove away. And he kept texting, bring me back my cigarettes, you stupid whore. And I didn't answer it, and I kept driving. And I drove to my friend's house first and told her I was leaving. And she gave me a hug. And she said, don't go back to him. And I'm like, I'm not going to. So I didn't know really where I was going. I thought, you know, maybe I'll go to my sister's. So I started driving to Kansas. And my phone was blowing up. He's texting, saying all these horrible things. And I pulled over. And I was like, you know what? I picked up the phone. I'm like, you know what? I know it was you that stole my identity. I said, I stole all your files. I'm going to prove it was you. And that's when the shit hit the fan. My phone was never the same after that at all. He had sent me messages, except the pictures are from my phone.
Okay.
And I bought a journal, and I was like, why does he have a picture of the journal I just bought in Kansas taken with my phone? And in the background you could see it's not my car. It was somebody else's car. And I thought, what is going on here? And I still hadn't looked at the files at that time. It didn't dawn on me. I just thought identity theft. I have to figure this shit out by myself. Mm-hmm. And then I was going through some of the the pictures, and my sister, she was like, she had seen one of the pages. She's like, where did you get that? And I said, what? She's like, Mark. It said Mark Coburn, and it said webcam Chris 10 me 5. She's like, because her husband had sold her into trafficking, and she said she was drugged and raped, and she said that she thought that she was being videoed and it was being recorded, and then she was looking through the screenshots of his phone calls, and she was like, that's the number of the man that bought me. Why does Scott have it? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. And she wouldn't talk about it after that. Like, she went through a lot during that time, and she's in counseling right now, and she still won't talk about it. And her Wi-Fi started acting really weird. I had this weird feeling it was Scott, and I'm like, it's him. It's hacker Scott. I know it. I know he's doing it. And I didn't want her to go through anything more, so I went to Canada. Scott had messaged me, and he's like, yeah. He's like, you know when we were at that hotel in August? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you were cheating, I know it. And he had sent me pictures saying that I was like supposedly screenshots of videos I was cheating. The one screenshot looks like a child. It's a child's face, like a small child. And he's like, that's me coming in your eyes. And I'm like, at first I put laugh out loud, and I thought, wait, what? I said, that looks like a kid's face. And I said, well, what's going on? I'm like, that's your foot. You have 4 toes on that foot. And I said, that's your foot. What is going on? I decided to make a police report about what was going on. And I told him, like, you know what, this is what I found. And I said, I believe he's a pedophile. I said, I know for a fact he was investigated earlier about possibly hurting his stepdaughter. And I said, I'd like to make a report about that, and I'd like it really investigated. So I do have a police file number, and it is still open. And I talked to his ex-wife, and she talked to her daughter, and she finally decided to come forward. She's afraid. She doesn't want to tell the whole truth. Most that she said that he asked her to watch porn with him and touched her inappropriately twice. But Kristen, she's adamant that something more happened because her daughter started behaving really strangely after that. And then when I was going through some of the files, there was that same video that I found a year before. I found it again, and it said "fuck flick." And I think that's when I was like, okay, there's something weird going on. Trying to put all these pieces together. His mother had him when she was 13. I started looking through the files, and then I seen his Google history that I'd also taken. And there was tons of child porn searches, tons. And I thought, you know what? I'm like, okay, if he's as good as he says he is, and I know he is, and he's even taking pictures with my phone, I said, he's gonna try and pin this on me. I need to get help. And then during this whole time, that DSS was actually thinking of giving my children to him and his mother. And I was like, oh God, no. And so I did everything I could to try and put a stop to it. I did the police report, sent emails to the guardian ad litem, sent emails to DSS, and talked to them. And I was like, I can't believe you're trying to push this meeting through to give custody of my children to DSS. And I said, is it just me or is this really wrong? I said, I cannot believe that I'm like, are you part of this? I'm like, is this part of some huge conspiracy, this child pedophile pornography thing? And I said, that you're part of? Why would you give my children to people who are suspected pedophiles? Not only that, there's reports that Scott and his mother have a sexual relationship, and the police file. And she's like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be continue forward with this. And I'm like, you think? And I'm like, and so I knew I only bought myself some time. So I talked to the band, and they had said that I had to return back to the US. And I told them I really didn't want to come back. I said, he's going to end up killing me. I know it. And they said, there's too much red tape. We can't help you. You have to go back. And that DSS wanted to adopt my children out. And I said, you're not even giving me a chance to get my children back. I said, you haven't asked Scott anything. You didn't even bring up the fact that there's an open police file against him for child sex abuse charges at that review board. And she's like, I didn't think it was relevant. And I'm like, of course it's relevant. And I'm like, how could it not be relevant? And I said, what is going on here? And I'm like, what is your role in all of this? I said, have you even read the case? I said, no, you haven't. And I'm like, something really wrong is going here. And I said, I need to get some help. So that's when I realized that I needed to call a lawyer, which I did. And I needed to figure out what was going on with these files, because DSS seems intensely intent. Like they're so focused on getting my kids away from me that they haven't asked Scott to do anything whatsoever. I was supposed to have a visit with my children today. I wasn't even told I had a visit with them. She just sent me a text saying, you know what, your visit with your children is canceled. And I said, this is wrong. This is completely wrong. I'm going to talk to your supervisor, because you didn't even tell me I could see my children. I'm only allowed to see them 2 hours a month, and now I can't see them again until next month. She won't send me pictures of my children. She won't even tell me where my children are. At the review board, she said that she didn't think that I could take care of my children. And I said, you know what? I'm like, that's not up to you. And I said, who are you anyway? I said, first of all, you didn't bring up the fact that my husband is a pedophile, that he has open charges against him. You haven't asked him for any more drug tests. You haven't asked him to redo any of the classes. And I said, you're just focusing on me. And I'm like, this is just completely wrong. And I said, you cannot think that I'm going to sit here and stand for this. And I said, I'm going to use the only thing that I have, my voice. And now here we are.
How old are your kids now?
Scarlett will be 6 on Thursday. They were taken October 31st, 2019. They were 3 and 4. Now they're 5 and almost 6.
Do they see Scott?
Yes. Yes.
Regularly?
He's allowed to visit them.
Monitored visits, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Do you have any idea where they are right now?
No.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you're going through this. I'm so sorry. I'm a mom myself. I have a 6-year-old. So I can't possibly imagine how you feel, how your heart aches. I'm so sorry. I think I would lose it. I'm pretty sure that would be my breaking point if my son was taken. So the fact that you are still here, and still trying, and so strong, and so coherent, and so eloquently telling your story with day to day and dates and in sequence, and you're boggling my mind. You are such a strong example of what a survivor should be. You are doing everything that you can to gather evidence. You're doing everything you can to be safe yourself. You're doing everything that you can to prove that you are stable and exactly what your children need to be with. You are doing everything that you can to get your kids back. You're literally the strongest survivor I think I've ever met.
Thank you.
When you were going through all of this with him, did you still love him?
At first I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then.
When did that light switch go off? Do you remember?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It was he got out of jail, and it started up again. That's when I was like, you know what? He doesn't love me at all. The day I left is the day that I felt absolutely nothing for him. In August 2020, I don't hate him. I don't dislike him. I don't even think about him. Like he doesn't even matter to me anymore. Like it was just, it's nothing at all.
There's a reason I met you. And I'm gonna figure out why that is. Because this is crazy. You mentioned something to me. I think it was the first time that we spoke. I was talking to you about how well you're handling all this, and you were telling me that you do yoga and meditation every morning.
I have found too that the better I get at it, it sounds like white noise.
It does.
Yeah, and I'm able to put myself in a space where I hear the white noise, and it feels like I'm just kind of one with the earth, if that makes any sense.
What you're meant to be focusing on in that minute, in that moment, will pop up. What you want to focus on during that time will pop up into your consciousness. And it's so wild. I find that when that happens, once I get out of my meditation, I'm so excited because you find that what you're doing is working, and it's so wonderful. You're like, I have to try this again, do it again over and over and over. It's really nice. And it helps in every area of your life, because when you're going along and you're doing what you do day to day, no matter what it is, you find that you're a lot calmer. You're able to maintain that calm in times when you would be anxiety ridden or frustrated or angry or whatever it is. You're just able to have that
inner balance.
Yeah, that balance. And balance is so hard to find. It's so hard to find as a human, especially as a woman too, and a parent and all that. And
I know, and I found like dealing with DSS, that's the only people that really kind of get me almost reactive, angry, and that's what I find it really, really hard to not pick up my phone and say exactly what I'm thinking. Just put the phone down, step back. There's something bigger here at play here. My children, not only my children, but there's other children up there, and if they get me to that point where I react, it's just giving them fuel for whatever they do, and I'm not going to do that. So I always have to remember that part. But really, it's just it doesn't mean that I don't get angry all the time, because I really do. I just have to, but I learned to control it better, because the mind is the hardest thing to control. You can control anything else. You can control what you eat. You can control what you say to people, but the mind is the hardest to control.
You're doing what you're doing not only to get your children back, but to help other parents get their children back.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you noticed this, but my organization, EyeOnDV, its slogan is "Your light in the darkness." So you are the light in the darkness for other parents whose kids are involved in whatever this is.
I find that really heartwarming, because one thing I've learned going through this is that there are so many women out there. And there are so many people that have their children taken from them, and for a lot of them, for no reason whatsoever. I don't understand why there's so many women, or there's so many domestic violence shelters out there, and yet it's mostly women who are hiding. It's mainly women who are fighting to keep their children. Why is that? That's not okay. There's a reason why women are afraid to call the police and afraid to tell, because as soon as they call, you know what, DSS is going to take their children away. It's a very real and very scary possibility, and it's a fact that it happens all the time. And not only that, when they go into shelters, Why is DSS in partnership with them? Like there's a partnership through DSS where they report every single thing I do to them. And you know what? So who's really the winning person here? The shelters they're getting public funding. DSS is getting the money from taking all these children away. Who is really out there to protect all these women? Not only me, but everyone else and their children.
Is silence just breeds more problem. Silence just breeds over and over, generation to generation, how it gets passed down, passed down, passed down. And I'm sorry, if we have to make people uncomfortable, if we have to make people incredibly uncomfortable, that's how it's going to have to happen.
Exactly.
We have to force people to see and hear. You have to force them. The only way we can do that is bring stories like yours to light. It's really, listening to your story is hard to hear, but so what? So what?
It's hard to live. But it happened. This is what happened.
Yes, and there's so many out there who have stories like yours. And where are they? Where are they? They're either stuck, scared to death. And who's going to help them? Because they're too scared to say anything.
Exactly. They haven't.
Somebody has to help. Somebody has to do something. And that is why EyeOnDV exists. I am sorry. I don't care if it takes me until I have 1 foot in the grave. So this is going to change. Because this is ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
Like honestly, I try not to think of my children because I'm so afraid that I'm going to break. And when I start thinking about them, I start crying. But then I remember, like, you know what? Stay strong. You can do this. You'll find help. Someone will help you. And that's when I met you.
That I think that we should continue once you get your kids back and everything is okay. And I think that you and I should work together because
I would love it.
You are an extraordinary example on so many levels. 1, 2, you have an extreme example of the failure to protect law. And that is a across the board giant problem. This conversation has been a roller coaster. It's been a roller coaster. Thank you so much for sharing everything. Like, thank you so
much for listening.
Yes.
Talk to you soon.
Yes. Love you, love you, love you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.